$1.68 billion in real cash changed hands today, and almost none of the headlines screaming on your phone had anything to do with it. A lab begged the planet to slow down. A government floated owning a slice of the companies. A country promised 250,000 jobs. The feed roared. But across the last 24 hours, only one quiet story actually put money on the table. To spot it, you first have to understand why the loud ones roar. Look at what landed in a single day. Anthropic, the company racing to build smarter-than-human models, publicly urged top labs to consider hitting the brakes. Washington floated taking equity stakes in AI firms. Airbnb's chief executive announced a brand new AI lab. OpenAI shipped a fresh memory system into ChatGPT. And Canada launched an entire national AI strategy. 5 headlines, each one engineered to feel like a turning point in history. All stacked into your morning before you'd even finished your coffee. Notice how every single one is framed as existential. Not a company updated a product, but the future of humanity hangs in the balance. Not a government held a meeting, but the state is seizing the means of intelligence. The vocabulary is always set to maximum volume. Breakthrough, war, race, doom, revolution. Your brain cannot tell a press release from an earthquake, so it treats both like a threat and floods you with the same jolt of adrenaline. Take the loudest one. Anthropic argued today that leading AI labs should, in their own words, weigh slowing or temporarily pausing development, because systems are starting to improve themselves. Read that again. A frontier lab, sprinting at full speed, says maybe everyone should stop. It lands like the third act of a science fiction film. The scientist who finally admits, with the alarm blaring, that the monster has gotten loose and nobody is in control. It is a genuinely striking thing to say out loud. But here is what almost nobody asked in the rush to share it. Did anybody actually pause? Did a single training run stop today? Because a warning is words. A warning costs nothing to issue and changes nothing by itself. And that gap, between what was said and what actually moved, is the whole game we're about to take apart. And it gets stranger from here. So why does an industry this serious sound like a carnival? Follow the incentives. In AI right now, attention is currency. Every loud announcement recruits engineers, courts investors, and pressures rivals. A measured statement gets ignored. A dramatic one gets 1,000 reposts before lunch. The system does not reward what is true or what is finished. It rewards what is shareable. So everything, from a safety memo to a product note, gets dialed up to the same screaming pitch. Timing matters too. Anthropic is marching toward one of the biggest tech share sales ever. And just today its president, Daniela Amodei, went public shrugging off doubts about whether AI actually pays off. When a company is about to sell stock, every headline becomes whether it controls. Confidence here, caution there, all of it tuned to keep the story enormous and the valuation climbing. Loudness is not an accident. Very often, it is a fundraising strategy wearing a lab coat. Then there is the government angle, which sounds like science fiction. Reports today say United States officials have discussed taking equity stakes in AI companies, the state owning a piece of the labs themselves. But the detail that got buried under the headline. Sam Altman reportedly pitched this very idea to the Trump administration back in 2025. So a year-old conversation gets repackaged as a breaking power grab. The frame is brand new. The substance underneath is old news. And up north, Canada picked today to unveil a sweeping plan it calls AI for All. More than $2 billion in funding. A promise of up to 250,000 jobs by 2031, $50 million for a national AI safety institute, and a public AI supercomputer. Big, round, headline-ready numbers, pinned to a global market they say will hit $4.8 trillion by 2033. But read the fine print, and almost all of it is a pledge stretched across 5 years. Here is where it gets interesting. Line the loud claims up against the evidence, and the air starts leaking out. The pause call? It carries no enforcement, no signatures, no rival agreeing to actually stop. It is a position paper, not a treaty. Nothing in any data center slowed down because of it. The most dramatic AI headline of the entire day is, mechanically, a strongly worded suggestion that everyone is completely free to ignore. And almost certainly will, by tomorrow morning. The government taking equity? No deal was signed today. No shares changed hands. It is officials and executives talking, which they have been doing for over a year. The Canada strategy? A document and a budget line, with the supercomputer still unbuilt, and that 250,000 jobs sitting safely out in 2031, where nobody can check the math for years. Promises photograph beautifully. They just don't move anything yet. This is the trap of AI news. The stories that feel the biggest are often the ones with the least settled underneath them. A warning, a plan, a meeting, a vision. They are loud precisely because they are unfinished. Because a finished thing is boring and a possible thing can be anything you fear or anything you hope. The drama lives in the empty space where the actual evidence is supposed to be. So while the feed screamed about pausing and seizing and planning, did anything concrete actually happen in the last 24 hours? Yes. One thing. It involved no manifesto and almost no outrage. A quiet company most people have never heard of walked onto a stock exchange and let the open market vote on it with real, irreversible money. Wait until you see the numbers because they cut both ways. Quantinuum, a quantum computing company, debuted on the Nasdaq today under the ticker QNT. It priced at $60 a share, sold 28 million shares, and raised $1.68 billion in cash. That is not a vision or a pledge. That is a wire transfer. Investors did not repost a thread about quantum computing. They bought into it, pushing the company's valuation to roughly $15 billion on its very first day of trading. And here is the reality check hiding inside the one real event. That $15 billion company booked around $31 million in revenue. Do the math. The market is paying close to 400 times sales for a bet on a technology that barely earns a dime yet. So even what actually moved carries its own warning label. The difference is this warning comes with a receipt. Money genuinely changed hands. You can verify every cent. There was a second quiet, real thing today. OpenAI shipped a genuinely new memory system into ChatGPT, what it describes as a more capable, more compute-efficient architecture that lets you review what the model actually remembers about you. No Duon, no Manifesto, no Panique. Just a product that hundreds of millions of people use, working a little differently tonight than it did this morning. Small, concrete, and shipped. That is what real movement usually looks like. See the pattern? The things that actually moved were unglamorous. A stock started trading. A feature went live. Meanwhile, the stories built for maximum volume. The pause, the seizure, the grand 5-year strategy, moved nothing you could measure by tonight. The signal was quiet. The noise was deafening. And almost everyone spent their whole day amplifying the noise and scrolling past the signal. So how do you actually stop falling for it? Start with one ruthless question whenever an AI headline spikes your pulse. Did anything change hands, ship, or get built? Or did someone just say something? A warning is a someone said something. A funding pledge for 2031 is a someone said something. A product going live, a stock pricing, a contract signing, those are real. Separate the words from the dollars, and half your feed goes completely silent in an instant. Second, watch the timing. When a loud claim lands right before a share sale, a budget vote, or a product launch, treat the volume as marketing until proven otherwise. The louder the framing and the further away the payoff, the more skeptical you should be. Real movement is usually specific, dated, and verifiable. Hype is usually vague, sweeping, and conveniently scheduled to land at the exact moment someone needs your attention. Do this for a single week, and the AI feed transforms in front of you. The existential headlines shrink back into ordinary press releases. The carnival quiets down, and you start noticing the small, dated, boring facts that actually compound. The shipped feature, the signed deal, the company that quietly went public. That is where the real story of this technology is being written. Far below the screaming you were trained to chase. So here is the one thing that truly moved while your feed begged you to panic. $1.68 billion in real cash. As a quantum company nobody was tweeting about rang the Nasdaq bell. No manifesto. No outrage. Just a receipt. Remember this the next time the AI news roars at you. Loud is a feeling, but money is a fact, and only one of them ever leaves a paper trail. Heavy stuff worth a second watch. Like and subscribe if you want more of this. We'll be back soon.